Welcome back to the Cash Practice Solution Podcast, where we help healthcare professionals leave the limitations of insurance and third-party meddling and build thriving, joyful cash practices. I'm your host, Dr. J, and today's episode goes deeper than systems, pricing, marketing. It's about the heart of a successful practice. In this episode, we'll explore 5 key ideas that make the doctor-patient relationship look more like a covenant than a contract, and how embracing this mindset can transform your ethics, your patient relationships, and your bottom line. When we think contract, we think transaction, right? I provide a service. You pay me, we're even. But in healthcare, that doesn't even scratch the surface. On a covenant, on the other hand, is relational. It's about commitment, a pledge that's rooted in trust and goodwill. In a covenant, the relationship matters more than the transaction. The transaction matters, but it's eclipsed by the covenant. And that's where the magic happens in a cash practice. Because let's be honest, patients don't choose cash practices because they're just cheaper or they're faster, or they come and they spend their money because they want a relationship-based situation with someone who actually listens, explains, and genuinely really cares. The patient perceives that you care. A contract says, I'll treat you because you paid me. That's a fair trade, nothing wrong with that, but it's nowhere near as powerful as a covenant. A covenant says, I'm committed to your well-being because that's who I am as a healer. It's not just the money. It's because that's my mission. That shift changes everything about your culture. You stop competing on price and start thriving on trust, authenticity, and outcomes. I came in today, and today's not my day to see patients, but one of our patients who I've known for years, she needed blood work done, and I'm handy. She's here. I don't want her to have to waste another day coming back for blood work at another time. It's easy for me to engage her. We can have a nice brief conversation. She can get her blood work done, and she knows she can trust me to care for her, not just to get her blood work done properly, but I care that she doesn't have to waste another hour or two running around trying to get a visit set up and doing all that. I'm here, she's here, we'll get it done. Let's talk about motivation. A contract is motivated by obligation. I do this because you paid me and I have to. That's the rule, right? I have to. I don't have a whole lot of choice at that point. I've made an agreement, it's a contract. A covenant, on the other hand, is motivated by faithfulness and purpose. I do this, that's because I'm that guy. That's who I am. I drew that blood. I took the time to do that with her because I care about her. I don't want her to have to waste her time. In a cash-based setting, trust becomes the coin of the realm. So it's not just about the money. It's about building that trust. When patients aren't relying on insurance networks to tell them where to go, they'll rely on trust to guide their choice. That's why communication, follow-up, and education are that's such a deep part of it because it builds trust. When you recommend care plans, they shouldn't sound like a sales pitch. You might have seen that where there's people advertising all over the place for all sorts of procedures for stem cells and PRP and diet plans and all these other things. And it's a sales pitch and people feel it. Instead, it should sound like a promise. I'm here to guide you at every step of the way. My goal isn't just to treat your pain, but to restore your health and keep you thriving. And part of that, and I think this is really important, is that a patient needs to know that it's a process. Not only are you engaging that patient and becoming more and more trusted partners in your covenant, but patients feel that. They can feel that when trust drives your motivation, you're creating loyalty for sure, but you're also creating, on a more medical side, compliance. Patients are if they trust you, they're going to do what you say. And my patients really, I would say almost to a person say, if you say I'm doing it, if you say that's what to do, I'm going to do it. And then you get referrals because they trust you and they love their friends and they care about their friends. They're not going to send them to somebody who's just a contract relationship. They're going to send them to somebody they trust. And then you have those long-term relationships that sustain your practice. So it's really important to understand that trust is really, that's the ultimate currency. That's what builds this practice and what makes the covenant a very different thing. Contracts end when the service ends. You treat the problem, you get paid, you move on. Now, there's some specialties that are like that. I mean, there's a surgical practice, dermatology, those things that you're doing things that you have a procedure to do and you move on. That makes perfect sense. But in our world, in primary care and in really longitudinal care, you treat the problem, you do get paid, and then you engage. That's a covenantal practice. The relationship continues. Your patients aren't case numbers, they're part of your family. Think about it. Your best patients don't come in for just emergencies anymore. They're coming in for the long-term maintenance of their health, looking for. So I heard this about vitamin D3. Is that really true? I didn't know it had an immune effect. I thought it was basically for, your bones. I didn't know that. Yes, for prevention, for wellness. And that's not coincidence, that's continuity. And in cash practice, continuity is sustainability, and that's recurring revenue. You can do all sorts of things to create recurring revenue outside of covenant. Basically, come in for a shot every week. They'll come in for a shot every week for a while. And then they won't. They'll go somewhere where it's cheaper or more convenient. But when they trust you, they'll drive and come do whatever you ask them to do within reason because they have a trusted relationship. When patients stay with you year after year, it's not because their insurance permits it, but because they trust you. You've built something that's going to last. You're not chasing new patients every month and running through marketing plans and different, all sorts of different people who are providing you with a new website, a new interface. You're nurturing long-term relationship. And that's how covenant-based care turns consistency into stability and stability into success. And I know that because we've had a practice for 30 years and we see patients that have been with us for 20, 30 years and they are referring patients constantly. This episode is brought to you by Esprit Health, the game-changing platform for cash practices that are ready to level up. With smart, intuitive AI tools that sharpen your clinical insight and streamline your business, Esprit Health helps you run a practice that's not just efficient, it's enjoyable. So if you're ready to break up with that cranky old EMR and finally experience tech that makes your life easier, come on over to esprithealth.com and see how thoughtful technology can transform your practice. And hey, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode that delivers the freedom to choose and the power to heal. Now, let's get back to the show. So let's zoom out to 30,000 feet. Every one of us, whether you're a DO, we do the osteopathic oath, an MD, Hippocratic oath, nurse practitioners, there's a nursing oath. They all circle around the same idea. We promise to act in the patient's best interest. We're not going to do stuff just for our own good. And that is the ethical center of medicine. In the insurance-driven system, that's pretty hard to do because there's a lot of stuff that insurance doesn't cover. And even though we know it would help the patient, we've got to figure out, does the insurance cover it? Is it going to be okay? For me, that's not acceptable. You got to see more practices in less time because they're cutting your fee. You got to document for all sorts of billing issues instead of documenting how is the patient making progress? Are they doing the things that they need to do? Are we missing anything? So we prioritize compassion over coding. And that's covenantal. I mean, that builds covenant. So many practitioners are turning to the cash model to reclaim their ethical freedom. There's not that moral burnout where you have to decide not to give a patient something they want or need because the insurance won't cover it. And you spend a lot of time, if you're in an insurance-based practice, chasing that. When you're running a covenant-based cash practice, you realign all of that. So your business aligns with your values. You decide how long you need to spend with each patient, and you just decide really what's best for them, not what's covered. And you can say with complete integrity, I'm here to serve you, not your insurance company. If my mom was in this situation, I would do this for her. My sister, my brother, my wife, my friends. That's not just good ethics. It's really good business. In a world of completely impersonal care, where healthcare has become a commodity, that kind of ethical clarity and lack of moral burnout, it stands out. Contracts don't enforce a covenant. Your own integrity, reputation, and consistency do. So, what does this have to do with the way that you relate to people? If it's not a contract, you're paying me, and then I respond by doing that thing. What's the motivation? Contracts focus on your rights. You've made a contract. What am I going to get? I made the promise. I'm going to give you what you paid for. Covenant focuses on responsibility. Basically, what can I give? What do I have that's in the wealth of my experience and really my heart, my love for patients? What can I give them? That's the heartbeat of a covenantal practice, serving people. Now, when patients sense that your first concern is their well-being, not their wallet, instead of seeing you as a Pez machine, where you've seen them, they pop the head and these little Pez come out. You're not providing some kind of commodity. You're providing them with you. And you're really a true partner in their health journey. And practically, this is kind of some things you can do there that make it real easy. You educate people. You tell them why you think it's a good idea before you try to sell them anything. You recommend care that serves their best outcome, even if it's not your most profitable move. You got to make money with your work. You have to. And if your income takes a little bit of a hit because you're making a recommendation that is going to serve their best outcome, you do it. And people feel it. They know it. You don't have to convince people that you're doing that. They feel it. People talk about our practice and the way we serve people in the community in that way. They say, he really does care. He's really committed. You make sure there's boundaries. It's not unlimited. You go anywhere you want with this. There's certain things, if a patient just chooses not to follow advice or do the things you want them to do or need them to do to be well, there's a point at which you just can't serve them. And really, the generosity of offering them all that you have creates trust, and trust builds that long-term recurring revenue. It seems like at some point it would wear out, but the more you give, the more patients value your care. The more they value it, the more that they're going to invest emotionally, compliance-wise, and financially. So when something costs them a little more than they might normally pay, because they trust you, they'll pay. And that's not transactional medicine. That's the covenant of care. And it's what turns an ordinary practice into an outstanding one. Let's recap the 5 covenantal principles that define a thriving cash practice. So, relationship over transaction. Build trust, not billing. Purpose over obligation. Let your values drive you, not what's covered. I think about medical magazines, and there's pages there that there's a new pulmonary function study. It's covered by some insurance company. So you should buy this machine because now it's covered. You can do this and you'll make more money. Well, does the patient really need that? Is that the idea? Let your values drive your motivation, not the latest ad for the latest thing that's going to get you a little bit more money. Continuity over closure. Right? So you're looking for the long-term relationship, not signing somebody up for a plan and being done. You're looking at having a long-term relationship with this patient. How do you create that? How do you maintain that? And how is that going to impact your practice? Integrity over compliance. Basically, you know the thing to do. And you're going to do it because insurance doesn't prohibit you. Where compliance with a list of rules from an insurance company, basically, that's not going to ever work. You're never going to have joy in your practice. You're just going to resent it. And basically, generosity over gain. Give more than you get, expectation-wise. And you'll be surprised how much you do get. When you live these principles, you stop being just a provider, a commodity, and you start being an individual's trusted guide, their partner, and really, and this is not pie in the sky, a healer. Your relationship by itself is medicine. That relationship that you have when somebody really trusts you and they know that you have their best interest at heart. And there's data to support this. Their immune system functions better. Their blood pressure goes down. All sorts of really good things happen. And that's what patients crave in today's healthcare climate. They want authenticity and commitment. And here's the best part. It's not just ethically right. It's a financial juggernaut. I mean, you'll be shocked at what this will create for you from a business perspective, because trust compounds like interests. Every good experience leads to another referral. I have a man I saw yesterday, and he had a problem that took a little time to unravel kind of the the chords of what was going on. And it's funny what he said, because it's kind of goofy, but he stood up in his business mastermind group. There are a whole bunch of CEOs and big shots. And he said, I got to go because I got to go see my doctor. He saved my life. I'm like, well, I don't think I really saved his life. I made his life a lot better, that's for sure. But he referred to a whole room full of people, 60 to 100 people there in that mastermind group, because his experience is so good. Every fulfilled promise creates another advocate like that. So that's the real secret behind every successful cash practice. If today's episode inspired you to rethink your doctor-patient relationship, ask yourself one question. Am I building contracts or am I building covenants? Because the most profitable and fulfilling practices are always built on trust. It's covenant. Thanks for tuning into the Cash Practice Solution Podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, share it with a colleague, leave a review, subscribe for more insights on building a thriving, ethical, and financially powerful cash practice. Until next time, listen to your patients, learn their stories, and love them with all your heart. You will be unstoppable.
Thanks for joining us. And if you have enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with insights to help your cash-based practice thrive. And don't forget to check out all the tools and resources available at cashpracticesolution.com. They're free to you, and we're always adding more. Keep raising the bar in patient care. We'll reconnect in the next episode with more ways to help you succeed.